Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with Sugar Shawn Ray, another edition of the Voice of Bodybuilding. We are back from overseas, Shawn. At least I'm back. You were supposed to be there, but it did not pan out for you.
Yeah, I was getting alerts earlier than you because I'm on the West Coast and I was coming from LA direct. Once I got the first alert that said the flight was delayed 4 hours, mind you, you got to get to the airport 3 hours on an international flight. You got to be there 3 hours early.
Sure.
Then it was delayed 4 hours. I would have been sitting there for 4 hours. And then I was rerouted, and it didn't even have the connection of where I was rerouted. But a 15-hour flight turned into a 26-hour and 50-minute flight through God only knows where. Missiles were flying in the air. The news was breaking like crazy. And I just, I couldn't afford to take the chance. And so I stayed home and I watched all the fireworks go off online.
Well, luckily I was able to sneak out. Getting back, that was a whole different story. We'll save for another day. But stuff is to say, I hate to use the word stuck. I was at probably the best hotel in Dubai, Ciro Hotel,
Zero. Yeah,
SIRO.
zero.
Brand spanking new, state of the art. If there's a 6-star hotel, this is it.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Big shout out to Botter and his entire crew. They did a great job once again. Prize money was doubled in Dubai. As everybody knows, Botter really puts his money where his mouth is and put on one of the best shows that I've been to in a long time. This has been growing for years. This is actually our 9th year as we were discussing it there with some of the expediters and some of his crew. Big shout out to Muhammad also out there. Does a great job of organizing the show. Next year, the 10th year anniversary, Shawn. It started in Kuwait, was there a few years, and he switched it to Dubai, which is much bigger and better. But we got a lot to catch up on, bro, because we've been missing some action as we've both been traveling and me overseas. So first and foremost, congratulations to Sauce. He won that M Pro when he finally cashed his ticket to the Olympia. A testament to going out there and getting what you want to get. He competed, 4 or 5 times to finally get it?
Well, I mean, listen, sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for because it might happen. That's an excellent example of perseverance and not settling. You reminded me of a short run of Milo Sarchev, who used to always experiment from one contest to the next until he actually got what he wanted. Now that he's got what he wants, again, you call me old school.
You are old school.
You want to go and be a participant on the pace on the racetrack, or you want to be in the race? I personally would be training and going and maybe catching the Olympia experience from the sidelines, and then I'd catch some of those shows following the Olympia. But I'm not so sure again, and I'm not a hater, and that's what we are now. If we tell
Sure you
someone,
are.
hey, don't go to the biggest show in the world, you're not going to get a dime. Don't go to the biggest show in the world, you're not going to be compared. I guess you have to go to the show and not be compared like I was in my first Olympia and get your ass kicked. And then you can go and tell your friends, hey, I was in the best show of the world. It's a great experience. When it happens to you once, okay. But you don't want to keep doing that over and over again because it's a brutal experience and a bad hangover when you recognize that you are just window dressing and you are not getting the type of adulation that you visioned your Olympia experience to be like. So he is qualified. I don't want to discourage him, but fact of the matter is, there is a bigger competition that he's going to be going into if he shows up in Las Vegas, and the results will not look anywhere like the high that he just experienced in Spain. Congratulations, Sauce. My professional advice: pick out some of these shows on the way to the Olympia or just after the Olympia and keep that winning streak alive.
Well, listen, I'm all for the experience or somebody going there who's never been there before. That said, you and I caught some flack last week. And by you and I mean I got flack for something you actually said, which is kind of funny to me. But so we were talking about Regan Grimes and that whole thing, and the big dust up occurs with quotes coming out of my mouth that actually you started, which was akin to whether we thought it was in his best interest to go to the Olympia, and that, in our opinion, which I agreed with you on, that in his present conditioning, that would be hard pressed to be fighting for top 10 at the Olympia, and more than likely he'd be fighting in the 12th, 11th, 13th place around there. Okay, so of course the internet blows up now. If you remember, and we don't have to roll the tape, I don't want to bore everybody, but I started the conversation about Regan with about, 5 or 6 accolades. That I like Regan. I like what he's got. I like what he brings. I like his physique. He's a good-looking kid, right? He presents himself. I gave all those accolades, so let's say 7 of them, Shawn, right? And then the last 3 were about whether he should do the Olympia or not. Nobody even comments. Not one quote of anything that I said positive about Regan, but they just focus on the 3 negative things. So my question to you, my friend, is this. who's the negative ones here that we keep getting crap? Being the old heads, the old guard, the old school, all that stuff that we're always, quote, negative. But who's the negative one? I had 7 positive things and 3 negative. So is it us that's negative, or is it them that's making it negative?
We're in a strange vortex as we try to give wisdom from years, decades in the game that the kids don't want to hear, their fans don't want to hear, and most of all, their trainers don't want to hear, because if the athlete's not in the show, the trainer's out of work, he loses a client. That being said, you got to remember, um, we'll go to LeBron James' son, Bronny. Bronny came out of college very
Right.
early. A lot of people thought there was some nepotism by him getting chosen by the Lakers, which is probably true. So be it.
Absolutely.
Was he ready? Was he ready for prime time? No, but he had flashes of brilliance. He had some moments in time, but he's better suited for the G League. That said, Regan Grimes is legit. He can win some pro shows. Is he ready for the prime time? He's already shown that he's not ready for the prime time. Will this year be any different? Well, the advice I just gave Sauce, who just beat Reagan, was try to find a show you can win. Find a show that you can be competitive, where you can actually grow. You want to go to the Olympia and get eaten up? Take your lumps, enjoy the experience, sacrifice your summer, put your health in jeopardy potentially. Go. Let them go, enjoy the ride, enjoy the experience. I'm not going to take that from them. I'd like to have an interview with them when it's all over to see if that investment was worth it, because they both won at least a minimum of $10,000, $15,000 this year. That money will be gone this summer getting ready for the Mr. Olympia. And when the Mr. Olympia comes, they'll both be left with a bill. So the hangover outweighs the experience for me, wisdom wise. For a young guy who's qualified, that's his lifelong dream. Again, I'm not going to take it away from him, but I can tell you on good authority, it's not a lot of fun having to dress up, put oil on, put the tan on, cook your food, carry around your fish, spend all your money at an Airbnb, and then go to the show and recognize that you're being served up to the lions only to stand there as window dressing, maybe get a chance to hit a pose or two. So that wisdom falls on deaf ears until it actually happens. So I'm going to take a wait and see approach. I'd like to see them both go to the Mr. Olympia, and may the best man make the top 10.
Well, I saw this online, and one of the sites that we see all the time, BTS, one of those type of things. I see this big quote, and I see Regan actually commented. Now, for the record, everybody, okay, listen, me and Regan aren't enemies. We don't dislike each other. Actually, I've always liked Regan personally, so let's try not to make it into another Nick type thing where everybody thinks we hate each other. We don't. Now, that said, he's entitled to his opinion, but so here's what Regan wrote. Now, I can't kind of laugh at this because he says, you get qualified for the Olympia, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, you show up, period. You only get so many opportunities. That's my take. End quote.
That's a contradiction. I call him a hypocrite.
Well, wait a minute now. Right? I'm going right where you're going, bro. Now, if memory serves, and I did respond to that actually in kind. Again, nothing hateful or anything, but it was just kind of a clarification. This is paraphrasing my own self, because I can't remember exactly what I wrote. It was something along the order of, well, then maybe your perspective has changed over the years, because in 2022 you were qualified for the Olympia, and you and your coach at that time, Milos Sarcev, pulled you out of the show because you didn't feel as though you were ready for prime time. So you just contradicted exactly what you just said. Well, wait a minute. You qualified then. You go, period, right? That's what you said. But clearly that wasn't the case in 2022. I mean, it's a little bit hypocritical, Shawn.
Yeah, but time changes the way you perceive yourself. A victory will change the way you perceive yourself. He won a show, so
Yep.
why not go back to the Olympia? He feels like he's made some progress over the past 3 years. Why not go to the Olympia? Let him go. We don't need to rain on these guys' parade. We're experienced enough to know that the dollars for me have to make sense. And that's going to come back down the road when they're retired and look back and see what it really costs to get ready for an Olympia. Everyone's cost is different, whether it's emotionally, physically withdrawn from your spouse or your family or your friends or your kids or your job, mentally checked out because you're in pain all the time, you're socially unavailable, you've sacrificed all of your free time to go for this goal, and then you get there and nothing happens for you the way that you dreamt it to happen. And by the way, here's your bill for the week that you decided to go in early, and here's the bill for all the tickets you bought for your family and your friends. And by the way, the judges got it right. So when you weren't compared with the top 10, it's because you weren't ready for the top 10. It's a sobering pill to swallow, knowing that it is the Olympia. And part of my argument when I was on that stage was that everybody gets paid. Expenses. You're in the Olympia.
Sure.
You qualify for the Olympia. Here's a qualifying check that you get. So it makes it worth it for everyone, regardless of whether you're first or last. But we know that if you're not in that top five, now you're starting to question whether or not you should have even done the show. Well, it's too late at that point. The experience on the Olympia stage is not what's going to prepare you for your next Olympia. It's the experience on these smaller stages that SAS and Regan are actually making progress and notable success.
Well, one thing I will agree with is I did see Regan put a statement out that said he might, it wasn't 100%, but that he might compete in that France show. That's the same show that Samson did that he caught a lot of flack for, which ultimately, in my opinion, actually won him the Olympia. And Regan's in a very similar situation. Listen, Regan has all the same attributes that Samson has. Beautiful physique, again, great proportions and symmetry and muscularity. Again, both good looking guys, both 6-footers. But the question mark in Regan is the same as Samson, and that is conditioning. So I thought it was a
Well,
great
wait,
move.
wait, wait. Let's be fair. You can't mention Reagan in the same breath as Samson.
Well, hang on. We're not we're
And
not we're not comparing,
the similarities are they're both 6 feet tall, but they're not even comparable after that.
but they're not physique wise like they're going to compare with each other. My
It's a
point, Sean,
physique
is
contest that we're talking about, Bob. We're talking about physiques.
yeah, but we're talking
It's a
about
bodybuilding show.
the context of what they both bring to the table. Okay, they're not comparable right now. Okay, to each other.
No,
What I'm saying,
not even
Sean,
close.
what I'm saying is that Regan is comparable in that he has all those great attributes, but it's conditioning that's his Achilles heel right now. So I think
Well, let's just
he should go in.
go ahead.
Listen, I think it's a great move if he goes in France, which is a week or two out of the O. Because, and this was again, this goes right back to what we were saying in the last show. Get the experience, hone your talent, and bring a better physique that is worthy. He said
Amen.
he's aiming for the top 6.
Amen. But Reagan Grimes in shape is not comparable to Samson,
No,
Mr. Olympia.
no, let's make
So
that clear. Yeah.
Reagan can get in the best shape of his life. He's not comparable to Samson. There's just not enough muscle there on the bone. There's not enough maturity as well. I believe Samson's probably 10 years older. But that being said, yeah, France is a great yardstick. He goes there, gets a victory, gains some confidence. If he wants to spend that prize money on getting ready for the Olympia to do what he's got to do, great. I'm not going to talk him out of doing the Olympia, but it's going to be a wake up call because the guys you compete against in California and Toronto, those are not the guys that you're going to have to face when you stand on stage at the Olympia. And there's a lot of them, including the old man William Bonek, who I believe will probably be on that stage. Why not? He's my bodybuilder of the year.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Listen,
He's
that
just chugging
the other old
along.
man is kicking everybody's ass out there. Okay. So
Yeah.
good for William. He's again, I'm with you. He's my bodybuilder of the year. I hope he finishes out on that Olympia stage loud and proud. William's a class act all the way and a great bodybuilder. But Sean, you bring up the prize money, and I want to segue to that because just last week or so, was the U.S. Open. I'm a big golfing fan. I've been golfing for many years. Finally thinking of those charity golf tournaments you used to put together years ago, Sean. Those were great. Need to bring those back. But I was looking at the purse, and while we've made some strides in bodybuilding, I don't want people to get a little too carried away. Yes, the purse has gone up in some of the higher positions. Okay, that said, if you're placing in anywhere out of the top 5, you're still making chump change or you're losing money. So here's some breakdown of the U.S. Open. Now, I know it's golf versus bodybuilding, but still, the total purse for the U.S. Open was $21.5 million. First place was 4.3. Second place was 2.3. Third place was 1.4. Eighth place, which we like to finally talk about all the time on this show, eighth place was $600,000. Last place, 66th place was $41,254. And if you missed the cut, you didn't even make the cut. You got 10 grand for your efforts.
Well, that was kind of the argument I was trying to make as an active bodybuilder. I stopped making it because I think the bodybuilders lost interest in that argument. And when you don't have the athletes banding together for the same common denominator, it's always going to be a winner take all sport. Samson's doing very well. Derek's doing very well. Nick Walker's doing very well. We can go down and we start stumbling when we get to about number 6 or number 7 bodybuilder. Then it becomes very much an independent contractor type job where they're out there fighting for the peanuts. I would love to see the next insertion of finances go not to the winner. Trying to compete with other prize money shows just to say mine's the biggest. It's just basically making it a winner take all. But how nice would it be? I remember when I competed in my first couple of Olympias, I believe 10th place was $10,000 at one time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the disparity came from to take that $10,000 away from the 10th place bodybuilder and pile it on to the first place bodybuilder and just absolutely take it away. 10th place does not get 10,000 today, and we are miles away. I'm 23 years into retirement. So I would love to see a reallocation of the prize money down to include 10th place, because really all I want to see are the top 10. At the
That's
maximum,
fair. Yeah.
at the maximum, top 15. And if you got more than 15 on the stage, we are wasting people's time on
Well,
the number one bodybuilding stage at the finals. I think we need to find a way to reduce that. I'm not the only one that's saying that. I think we'll get there. The night is too long. The dollar amount is too short. And who wants to spend the evening watching the guy that's going to go away with a handshake? And there's a lot of things that I would like to see happen on that Olympia stage. One of them is the reduction at the finals of the guys that are going to be up there performing. I want to see competitors. If you can't crack the top 10, I don't think you should be in the night show.
well, we've talked about this many times on this very show, but I am not in favor of the current qualifying system. I know neither one of us are for that reason. We may be close to 500 competitors this year at the Olympia.
Oversaturated.
Yeah, and that's a little bit crazy, right? I mean, you shouldn't have 50, 60 people in any one division. That's
Yeah.
quote the quote best in the world. Now, I get we have shows out there. I get that there's a money train that makes the whole engine work. I get it, but I have proposed a better system, which again I think it's a better system, which I'm not going to bore people with now. Maybe we'll put it up sometime in the future. That would check all the boxes as to qualifying, but having kind of a natural cut line there, and then an actual cut when we actually get to the show, like every other sport does. But that said, again, I do get the idea that this is a sport. We've talked about possibly, rearranging the scheduling. I think would be much more beneficial. Look, at as good as things seem like they're going in the right direction, if you just look a little bit beyond that, we have pro shows that are struggling. Now, people say, well, there's too many pro shows. Like, well, not necessarily. You could have 100 pro shows, but you have to have a cut system or X amount of people that get there. Like I mentioned in golf, Shawn, majors and minors. You have major shows, you have minor shows. The U.S. Open
Yes.
is a major show. The
Correct.
whatever, pick a, the Gulfstream, Open Championships is not a major title. It's good money and it will give you, a win on the circuit, but it doesn't necessarily get you to the big dance. I saw one of the other platforms was actually talking about, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous, but given the platform, it doesn't shock me, that the Olympia should possibly consider an invite type thing like the Arnold, which I think is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, honestly.
100%. Listen, you can't. Who's the committee selecting someone to come and be in the biggest show in the world? That's not even worth acknowledging. I think it's
No.
ludicrous. Whoever said that is a nut job.
Well, which speaks for itself. We won't even bother the names, but everybody knows who we're talking about. Anyway, but that said, I want to get on to the world of bodybuilding here because a few things happened. The Dubai Pro #1. Well, before we get to that. So the China Pro took place just this last week, and I did see some stuff online about the scoring, and that there was a
Yeah.
discrepancy in the scoring, and they're trying to figure, something's not right here. There's politics, there's this and that. Listen, people. First of all, I don't even know what those score sheets are. Okay, I didn't see any official score sheets. I saw some score sheets. Number two, prejudging is prejudging. Okay, the judges at nighttime are judging. Anybody
Yeah.
can move. So there was, again, I only caught a little bit of it because I was traveling, but wow, somebody who was in sixth ended up in third or fourth. Yeah, it happens. You know what happens? Somebody shows up at night, looks a lot better, or somebody shows up at night, looks a lot worse. That's why we judge pro shows at night, everybody.
Yeah. I tell you, I remember Lee Labrada being very adamant in 1990, saying that he was ahead after prejudging, and he lost at the finals to Lee Haney.
Could be.
Now ideology is Lee Labrada is one of the premier posers in the world.
Yeah.
Certainly poses circles around Lee Haney. But we also know that Lee Haney, in all of his victories, has never lost a posing round, along with Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman. Linda Murray was trailing Bev Francis in the 1990 Miss Olympia competition.
Yeah, that's something.
And of course, that's why you have prejudging. So you have a chance at the finals to make up the difference. And it's not over to the fat lady sings, no pun intended. But any bodybuilder worth their weight understands, including Jay Cutler, who I thought was beating Ronnie Coleman in 2001.
He was.
Prejudging.
Yeah.
and he lost the show ultimately. It doesn't matter what happens after prejudging. You got to stay on your game. It's over when you hear the final results announced on the stage. Anyone that wants to argue that, they don't understand the scoring. So educate yourself.
Well, let me educate the masses out there, because for some odd reason we have brought this up ad nauseum, and people still question. I'm talking, when I say people, I'm talking other outlets, not just the fan base. I expect them to question things because they're not really in the know. But some of these
Right.
people are, and they continue to state stupid things like, we need to bring back the posing, the scoring of the posing round, because the posing was so much better back then. People, like Shawn just said, they never scored the posing, okay? Now, in lieu of that, because I was in the meeting, made the proposal, much to Milos's chagrin, that we don't score the posing round because it's impossible to actually score. In lieu of
That's
that,
crazy.
that's when we put in the confirmation round of scoring, because the night show had to mean something. Because you remember the old days, Shawn, people would go to the prejudging, get whatever was going to be gotten, know the night show was useless, and then go out and eat pizzas, and then show up
Right.
looking fat and glossed over, with the audience going, how did this guy win, right? So
Right.
that's why we put in the confirmation round of scoring. It's an actual opportunity to get scored, right, and compared. So if you're better than the morning, if you've got, they didn't maybe quite see it that way, and you have an opportunity. And, this is what happens, all right? Possibly this is what happened at the China Pro. But please stop with the conspiracies, people, with the scoring, or something's amiss here or something like that. Listen, I don't care if the judges just saw somebody at night and went, I think this guy looks way better tonight. I think he should be in third. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen this happen many times where the judges in confirmation have decided that someone made enough ground, made enough improvements. We can go back to Pittsburgh when the Derek and the Nick thing was going on. They worked them and worked them and worked them until somebody cracked, and then they had to pick a champion. The posing is a lost art. I never won that round. Labrada never won that round. Flex Wheeler,
Amazing.
in his victories, if you won the show, you won the round.
Of course.
But Flex never won the Olympia, so he never won the round. Vince Taylor never won the Olympia, never won the round. But when we start talking about some of the world's best posers, Muhammad Makawi included, they don't have one in that column in the posing round. So it wouldn't have helped anyways, because that was their way of confirming what happened at prejudging.
Well, the other thing that keeps getting tossed around, which again I've corrected dozens of times, literally, is that there's no more symmetry around it. We took that out. Again, people, every single show that you go to starts with the symmetry round. That's why they're doing quarter turns. Now, no, it's not scored, but it's being judged. Just like your posing routine is not being scored, but it's being judged. Your physique is being judged from the time you get on the stage till the time you get off the stage. So stop saying, people, that we don't have a symmetry round. We do, and we start with it every single competition. Now, should it be given more weight? Well, we've talked about that. Yes, I think it should be given more weight sometimes, because ultimately I think those are the cornerstones of what we do in our sport of bodybuilding. But that gives us a great segue to the Dubai Pro lineup, because there was some speculation out there in the placings, which I thought were pretty dead on. I could have, honestly, everybody knows Beirut's won. Now I was there, okay, bro. I'm on stage. I'm sideways to him, but I'm closer than the judges are. I see him coming and going. I see him in the quarter turns. I'm usually pretty spot on when it comes to assessment. Beirut won the show the second he stepped on the stage. I thought he was as good as last year, if not better. The competition to me was second place, which was William, God bless him, and Tonio. Now, Tonio, great move going in the show. I mean, he just put a nice fat check in the pocket. Could he have been second and William third? I thought there was maybe some room for that. What did you see, Shawn, on the
I thought that was a coin toss. And as good as Tonio is, he just doesn't carry the thickness that William. They're about the same height.
Yeah.
But William is so much more thicker, so much more mature. He's got, back in the day, I used to say Albert Beckles, Robbie Robinson, they have that old man muscle.
Yeah.
Williams got that old man muscle by comparison to Tonio, who looked lighter and thinner, shapier,
Yeah.
but he just looked lighter and thinner. And William was thick. The biceps were full, the legs were full. That's why, again, Tonio, I think, has a better structure, but it's not as compact and thickly dense. But that muscle you can't take away from William Bonac. He's holding on to it very well.
Well, it was close, but you're spot on. That was exactly my assessment there. You couldn't take away from William his thickness and density. You can tell he's been in the gym for 30 years. You can tell he's a veteran
Yes.
bodybuilder. Tonio, great start. Again, he continues to improve. He continues to bring a great package. He's always in condition. Good for him. Again, smart play going into the Dubai Pro. This is where it gets fun because Nathan Diasha, who we haven't seen, and I know he had some issues getting to the Olympia the last couple of years or so. I did talk to him personally. He said that's all been resolved. So should he be able to qualify? He says he can get to the States now. But he was not pleased in fourth place. Matter of fact, he even went out kind of on a little tirade against Steve, Big Steve, and the judging panel that he thought he got overlooked. He got screwed. He got, whatever. They got it out for him. Every time Steve judges him, he's fourth. So clearly he wasn't in a good mood. But listen, taking personalities out, because I like Nathan personally. We get along great. We hopefully might be doing some other business together as he owns 3 gyms. But we're talking about physiques and comparisons here. The competition from the start, Shawn, seemed to split itself into 2 factions. Top 3, which was clearly Beirut, Bonac, Antonio. Then 4, 5, and 6, which was Nathan, Rubio, and Mo Fuda. Okay, and it seemed to split pretty even there. I know Nathan thought he should have won the show, but I got to be honest, bro. I got him in 4th.
I don't think any of those bodybuilders feel that they should lose. So that's how Nathan feels. That's not his first 4th place competition. He's had many other 4th. He's never taken losing kindly.
No, he hasn't.
And he gets an A+ for passion. But now after a couple of donuts, maybe a beer or pizza, a little bit more looking back and reflection, he might see what the judges saw. But in no form or fashion that weekend was he going to beat any of those top 3 guys. As a matter of fact, Fudo, to me, was more complete. And had he had the back, he would have probably moved up a notch or 2. And Rubio's muscularity kept him hot on the heels of Diasha. But Diasha shouldn't have anything to be complaining about with those 3 guys he lost to.
Oh.
But if his argument is that Big Steve is the reason, well, what happened in all those other shows that he got 4th? And also, what happened with all the other shows where he actually won? I'm sure Steve was judging a 1 or 2 of those shows that he actually won. He's got to take his focus back off of other people, put it back on himself, put his nose to the grindstone, talking about the reasons why you lost. Nobody really even cares. Nobody cares,
Well,
especially when you're so far. You're out of the top 3.
Right.
Like all you should be talking about is your next contest.
Well, interestingly, he actually said, and again, I take some of this with a grain. Again, people, we've said this before. Let these guys air their grievances, give their opinion. Listen, they've been dieting forever. They're starving, right? Let them get a cheeseburger or 2. And like you said, the water seemed to calm and clarity seems to enter the equation. Yeah. But he actually thought that him and Tonio should have been fighting for the win. And Beirut was in 3rd place, which is so
Let me
ludicrous.
give him a reality check. He was nowhere near Tonio.
No.
And he was miles away from Beirut.
Well,
next question.
There's structural issues that keep him out of that particular
That's right.
top 3. Okay.
Yes.
We don't have to beat that to death. Everybody knows what it is. I did look at comparison pics from last year to this year for Nathan. He was actually a little bit better last year in terms of his roundness, in terms of his fullness. If you're looking for an answer, Nathan, because you know me, I'm not mincing words, neither is Shawn. You were a little flat when you came out. You were in shape. You're not out of shape, clearly. You're in the mix. But you're a little flat. And that's the reason that it took you out of that top 3. If you were as round as last year.
Soft. And his stomach was smooth. He was not detailed. He wasn't peeled. His abs were missing, notably, and his lower back just didn't have the thickness. There's more than one reason why you were 4th place.
Yeah, well,
and that's not the bash him. The judges are the ones that put you in 4th, not me.
And I got to back up. Listen. We often disagree with some of the judges' decisions, but I got to give him credit when it's due. Big Steve ran a good show, as he always does. Always gives these guys an opportunity. I saw some stuff online that people were like, well, I don't understand why he wasn't standing next to this guy or this guy wasn't standing to that guy. And it's like, look at people. First of all, I heard that about Tonio. Like, Tonio should have been next to Beirut. First of all, Tonio was next to Beirut the entire show because when they bring out 5 guys, and the top 3 was Beirut, who was in the center, Bonac, which was on one side, Antonio was on the other. He is right next to him. Now, that said, Shawn, they bring them out, and if anybody wants to go and watch the tape, you'll see they're not in any particular order when they came out. Steve just called out 5 numbers, okay? Then he started moving people around. It was Mo Fuda, who was all the way on the outside, that he moved in next to Beirut, because at first glance, you think Mo Fuda is going to give him a fight. Like, hey, okay, we got a show here on our hands, right? Now, until they turned around to the back, and then it was over because that's Mo's weak point. He knows that. He's going to work on that and come back because he's a future superstar, in my opinion. But he was very weak from the back. So he eventually found his way back to the outside as Steve moved people around and of where he thought they should have been in comparison. So to think that like Steve didn't give these guys like a chance to compare is ludicrous because Mo never would have gotten moved into the. By the way, you don't need to be exactly right next to somebody when you're 8 feet away. I think the judges can make a comparison and see.
No, you're right. And at the this is picking. This is looking for excuses. Again, Nathan needs to just go back, train. There should be a 48-hour moratorium where you don't talk after the competition about what the decision was. But the only revenge that Nathan can exact is to go out there and try to find a victory, try to find a W. If he decides to just eat pizza and be fat and out of shape, well, he's got another year, but he's not another year younger. He's getting another year older.
Well, this will bring us to another great topic. The topics just continue to pile up this week as they all run hand in hand. Well, Nathan's plan apparently was not to eat pizza. It was to go to the Italy Pro, the Flex Pro, which is coming up this week. Here's the problem. Allegedly, he missed the deadline to sign up by like 12 minutes or something like that, right? Now, the other guy that's not in here is Mo Fuda, which I just saw a post from him basically saying he's going to shut it down for the year and, continue to work on his physique for next year, which I thought you just got ready this entire time, right? For one show. It's like, why would you guys not go to Italy? Now, to Nathan's credit, he says he missed a deadline. That brings up the following, Shawn. Why is there a deadline? We've gone through this many times over the years, both of us in capacity of athletes rep, working with the pro league. We've had deadlines, then we softened them. Then we made them longer, try to give the promoter time to promote. That didn't make any difference. But at what advantage is it right now to have any deadline? Why would you not want these two guys in the show for some arbitrary deadline that exists?
Well, look, as a contest promoter, you have a show to promote. You have personalities that you want to promote. These guys are selectively waiting to the 11th hour. Listen, if I show up to the post office, the bank, my favorite restaurant, or a movie theater, and they say they close at a certain time, if I'm 12 minutes late, they're not going to open up for me. Who am I?
Right.
So he's not the only one that got the memo that there's a deadline. It's on the website. Every athlete knows. These are called rules and regulations. When you start bending them for one or two people to make exceptions because it's so close to the cutoff, it changes the reason why you have rules. I'm glad they enforced the rules. They enforced the rules when I failed the drug test. They took the trophy away and they took away the money. That's a good lesson to be learned. So they should continue with that frame of thought for everyone.
Well,
Now,
here's what
there's
I'm
no
contesting.
reason. There's no logical reason, Bob, to make an exception for a bodybuilder just because he's good and he's holding out to the 11th hour till his universe is correct to make it a better show for the promoter. I'm going to have the athletes that follow the rules and regulations. Those are the ones that are going to get rewarded. And I don't want a prima donna or some last minute wishy-washy guy saying they're going to come in. I don't mind them pulling out if there's a medical reason, but I'm not going to let you in because your clock was wrong or because you thought it was a day. This competition takes planning. The Olympia takes planning. You got to qualify. You got airplanes. You got hotels. You got your trainer, your posing coach. If you can get to all of that crap, you certainly can get to a registration booth or a registration online email. And when you don't and you change your mind, the rules don't need to be bent and confined towards what you want just because it would make a better contest.
So I don't disagree with you in that they should.
He's not being punished, Bob. He's not being punished.
No. Listen, he's not, and I don't even disagree with you that rules are there for a reason and they should be followed and enforced. My question is why do we even have a deadline to begin with?
I just think again, you need some organization.
What's
I don't
the
want to have
point?
5 guys. Listen, I don't want to have 5 extra pros show up that are going to come to my contest. I've
Why
got to
not?
be responsible for. Well, because I need order too, and I have a show I'm running in Hawaii, pro bikini, pro physique. We have a deadline. I don't need an influx of 10 extra physique guys or 10 extra bikini girls. It's not going to make my show better. It's going to make it more confusing. It's going to make me responsible for 10 more people.
Bro.
You do it for one, you're going to wind up having to do it for all. It's chaos.
So what? Listen.
You might as well not even have a
So
registration
listen,
thing.
so you write their name on the sheet, right? Here's the Flex Pro right now. You got 2 names that you've never even heard of any of these guys. You got Andre Presti and you got Nextilla. That's
just
it.
because you never heard of them doesn't mean they're not good.
It does.
Just because you never heard of them
that's
doesn't
true.
mean
But
they're
you
not
know what?
good.
We do have superstars in this game, right? And we do have notable names. Nathan Diasha, love him or hate him, is a notable name. Mo Fuda, again, and he didn't miss a deadline, but he just didn't go in, is a notable name. Maybe he would have gone in, but if not for a
Be
deadline.
mindful, Bob. Be mindful that the name does not make the event. Okay, there are guys winning shows that no one's ever heard of. Us is one of the guys that a lot of people have never heard of. They heard of him now because he beat Regan Grimes and he won a show. This is a great opportunity for nobody from nowhere to come out and get a victory. They're not going to these contests because Nathan Diaz is coming in from England all the way over to Spain or Italy.
Well,
That's not why they go to a contest.
you're going to go based on a generality of competition. Nobody's going for any one person other than their family, right? But if you're a fan of the sport, you want to see some big names in the show. I just don't see any good reason at this point why we've got arbitrary rules that have no relevance to anything other than putting their name on a judging seat.
You're late to the party. You're saying that in 2025. These rules are not new. They've been there. Sometimes they haven't been enforced, and that's not fair to the other
No,
bodybuilders that
we've
have to
changed them.
adhere.
We've
I'm a
changed these
stickler
three
for
times.
rules.
We've changed these three
I'm a
times over the years.
Well, it hasn't changed now, which is why once it got enforced, you're suddenly paying attention to it. Don't feel sorry for Nathan for
I don't
missing the
think it helps
deadline.
anybody, but
Then he should write it. He should write his IFBB president and ask for a rule change for himself because he's the only one that missed the deadline.
well, I'll let whoever the next athlete's rep is bother themselves with that. The beauty now is that we can just
100%.
speculate about these type of things because I don't have any horse in that race, but
Yeah.
but it is Nexzilla versus versus Presti at the Flex Pro, as far as I'm concerned. Presti just missed out. He went all the way to the China Pro, and he came up short in a second place finish. Um, He's a veteran competitor. He's gotten to the Olympia before. He's missing a few things in terms of overall structure, but he presents himself in good fashion and all that. Here's the question. Is this Nexzilla's best opportunity to win a show? Because he's got so much muscle. He is such a freak. If he just brings it down 5 pounds from Dubai, I mean, he would wipe the floor with everybody. But man, what a great name to have at the Olympia. You talk about the freak factor. He is the freak of all freaks.
And he could get there. So he's doing what it takes to get there. But when he gets there, again, he's going to have to figure out a way to capitalize on that. Because there's a lot of Americans that haven't seen this guy, right? And being on the Olympia stage, he'll be that one Tom Platz type look against the rest, which is not going to be something that's going to land in the money, but he'll bring that freak factor. Getting to the Olympia for somebody like him would be a huge success, even if he doesn't make the top 10. But again, being the elder statesman of the sport, I like to see somebody like that get to the Olympia, also go home with some money in their pocket. So I'm all about these guys being compensated for getting to the Olympia. So you can't have everyone because you don't have enough money to give to everyone. So
Right.
that's why I say that's why you have to eliminate.
Well, finally, in our last segment, Shawn, I want to delve into something. It's kind of been an ongoing discussion we've had because there seems to be a split amongst the bodybuilding community between the, quote, old school and the new school, and whether the sensitivity is too high, whether we're too harsh, we're too critical. We think everything was better back in the day. But it's interesting because I heard an interesting argument, which is along the lines of, well, these guys didn't have to deal with this stuff like we do now. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, this is modern era. We didn't compete in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
25 years ago, the internet existed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We had these things. We had to Get Big and the rest of these forums and stuff that started popping up all over the place. And they were very popular, right? And we had the magazine. So when you guys sit there and say, like, well, we didn't have to deal. Yeah, we did. And we had to deal with it not from the peanut gallery, which is primarily the internet, right? And fans out there who just want to spout their opinions based on absolutely nothing. We had to actually deal with experts. I'm talking writing experts, Peter McGuff and Greg Merritt, and Shawn O'Brien and Bob Kennedy. And I mean, you can go on and on and on.
Steve Blackman.
Right, Steve Blackman, right? And that whole crew, people that actually literally covered the sport, and sometimes they weren't the kindest when it came, but you just took it on the chin. So my question to you in our ongoing feud of, well, who's more sensitive, us or them? Are we just waxing old and philosophical, or was it better back then?
No, there's a thing called feelings that's been injected into this. There's a thing called mental health that's been injected into this. And there's a dime a dozen trainer guru that are now a part of every athlete's realm of preparation. So it's not one mind you're dealing with, it's two minds with the trainer. Then you're dealing with the girlfriend. Then you're dealing with the wife. Everybody's involved. It's a team thing. And for some people, a team works. But back when we were coming up, we were doing it on our own. So we had to defend for ourselves. We had to speak up when we had to speak up. And these arguments that we had, yeah, they were in chat rooms and on bodybuilding.com, T Nation,
Yeah.
Muscular Development, Get Big. They were all, everything was debatable. Everything was open for argument as we watched it evolve into what it's become now, where it's on our cell phone and you can make these posts on the toilet. You don't have to have an opinion every time you see a post. Sometimes you can just read it. You know, you don't have to defend
Right.
a comment from a guy that's not competing who said you shouldn't compete. We don't know you. Maybe you should compete. Maybe you have a mission. Maybe it's for your health. Maybe it's for your family. Maybe it's for your sponsor. Maybe it's part of your contract. But we have an opinion. Your opinion is no more valid than my opinion, but the internet is where we make our opinions. So when we're doing commentating over here and these other guys are doing commentating over here, we're not competing with those commentators. We're just talking about what we see and what we think. It's opinions. And I just think that there are so many divisive mechanisms in social media that's also into the political spectrum with the Republicans and Democrats in our religion with the Muslims and the Christians and the Catholics. It just seems like everything is debatable now.
Right.
And that's what the internet is for. The internet is for arguing, for debating, for disagreeing, for trying to shut people down, to hate. And sometimes you forget that it really is about expression and opinion. And no one's opinions are more valuable than the others. And I'm not going to get in an argument and a fight. Elite Priest always does a great job of going on there and just basically going, you guys are a bunch of wankers, right? Like you're taking it too serious. You're taking it too serious.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's the minimalistic response that Lee Priest has that I like to some of these idiots that are looking for these hardcore, give me proof, give me evidence, let me show you. Look, you weren't there and you don't know. Yeah, we
Right.
do know. We're 40 years in the game. We're older than the current Mr. Olympia, right? We were competing when these guys were not even born, most of them. So we're entitled to our opinion, and I'm not going to defend it all the time when I see somebody that says, oh, you guys are old school. Yeah, we're old school. But guess what? I've never missed a Mr. Olympia since 1988. Never missed an Arnold Classic since it started in 1989. You and I both worked for and with Joe and Ben Weider.
Yeah.
We knew the founding fathers, right? We worked for and with Arnold Schwarzenegger. We're working with Jake Wood. I mean, what more on a resume for qualification do you need when you're standing there calling out the results, yet you don't know what the hell you're talking about? I don't know what constitutes an expert, but I think we're experts, so agree to disagree.
Well, I'll put our resumes up against anybody's in this industry. I don't think there's any collective two people, you and I, that have seen more shows, been a part of more shows than anybody in this industry, as we've both been on all sides of it, including writing columns and doing
Promoting.
play-by-play. And you were on play-by-play with CBS Sports, for God's sakes, with the Arnold years ago, things like that. So I'll take our expert status and then everybody else can punch in whatever they want. But it reminds me of you remember the movie The Longest Yard, right? Burt Reynolds and all that.
Oh,
One of my favorite movies. But did you see the remake when they did it with Adam Sandler?
Yeah. I lost interest because it became a comedy. But go
No,
ahead.
it actually wasn't bad. I mean, the way they did it. But my point is this: so Kevin Nash is in there as a character, right? And they switch out his steroids and they put estrogen tabs in there. So throughout the movie, he starts getting more sensitive, where he starts crying for stuff. And it's funny, obviously, because he thinks he's taking gear. But that's what reminds me of the current crop right now. It's like, did somebody spike their steroids with estrogen tabs, or did somebody switch out, put soy in the protein powder? Like, what is going on today that every time there's an assessment or somebody like you and I come out there and we give an assessment, we're haters or we're negative.
Haters.
And again, negative, just like I started the episode with here. Who's the one who's being negative exactly? I sat there and gave accolades to Regan Grimes of what I liked about his physique and why I liked him. And again, how he's got a great looking physique and this and that. Not one person mentioned anything of that, what I said. The only thing I saw was, and again, which you said, but anyway, was that I think, he should stay out of the Olympia. That's so.
Well,
who's being negative? Us or the people interpreting this stuff?
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, why is it acceptable when an athlete says, me and my coach decided we're going to take a pass, we're going to skip? But when a commentator sees the down and distance and goes, buddy, you probably should sit this one out, you're going to get mad because that's our assessment? Yeah, I just won the show. Why should I sit it out? I don't know. Do the math. Who'd you get beat by? A top 10 guy? I mean, if you want to go. Enjoy the Olympics. We'll be there to watch it. I'm not going to say I told you so, but go.
Well,
you have to experience it.
In this particular case, Regan did exactly that. Like I said, in 2022, he bailed out for whatever reason. They didn't think he was ready. Again, Milos, they put a whole video out. He's going to sit this one out. Now he sits there and turns around and gets on my ass saying, well, I think if you qualify, you should, here, I got it right here. You show up, period. You only get so many opportunities. Okay, so you've changed your mind with that. It's not
Well,
crazy
Bob,
for us
I
to
got
sit there and say that maybe you should think about getting your physique to a point that you could be a contender in the top 6. I just don't believe that's right now.
well, our good buddy Nick Walker had won the Arnold Classic. I was there. I helped present him with his trophy. He made the announcement. And we started talking about the preview for the Olympia. And I said, I don't know that he's even going to make it to the Olympia.
Right.
Lo and behold, he had some mind problems and he didn't make it to the Olympia. I didn't hold it against him, but getting ready for the Olympia is not like getting ready for the Arnold. It's not like getting ready for the California. It's not like preparing for the Toronto Pro. There's so much weight on your shoulders getting ready for the Olympia that some people just don't even make it. Some make it and don't even wind up on the stage. Logan Franklin
Yep.
was at the Olympia
We've
one
seen
year,
that.
never made it to the stage. Cedric McMillan pulled out after prejudging. I mean, the Olympia is a big deal. And some people get to the city, never make it to the arena. And I've seen it happen on several different occasions, which gives me pause because just because you want to show and you have all this energy and you think now you're ready for the big guys, be careful what you wish for because the weight of the crown could scare the hell out of you when you get there. And all of that, you put so much pressure on yourself that you psychologically take yourself out of the game. And injury is waiting right around the corner for any of you. There's very few guys like Dorian Yates that can tear a bicep 4 weeks out and still make it to the Olympia stage.
Well, I'm going to finish
And
with
win.
this, Shawn. We're not new to this game. Like I say, both of us have been in this since we were literally kids, young kids. We've been doing commentary, play-by-play. Again, writing articles, writing contest reviews, on stage, obviously emceeing, things like that. We've been doing this for over 25 years, okay, each. So we're not doing anything new. What's changed is the landscape has changed out there. We haven't changed anything. So for those out there saying, well, I don't understand, why is Bob saying this? Well, he's the MC. He shouldn't have any opinion on anything. I've been doing this
You're
for the
fired.
20 years, which this will be my 20th on the stage, as you and I started back 20 years ago, Shawn, on the Olympia stage. Nothing
Yeah.
has changed on my part. We've been doing, predictions and critiquing shows and handicapping for all those years. So
Yeah.
nothing has changed on our part when it comes to lending an opinion or doing that. How that precludes me from announcing somebody's name on stage is a complete mystery to me.
You're not a judge. You have no influence. You're carrying the flow of the show. Your opinion is about as valid as the person sitting in South Africa watching it online. So you have no influence. You've got no control. That person sitting online watching it in South Africa can chime in on any message board, on any Instagram post, on any chat room. So why they are putting more weight on your opinion when it comes to how you see things in a negative way is beyond me. But you know what? The closed mouth doesn't get fed. And at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to report accurately, fairly, and unbiased. We're not necessarily friends with the competitors. These kids, and I call them kids because they're young enough to be our children. They're young men. We didn't grow up with these guys. We watched them come from amateurs. I was there
Yeah.
at the USA when Derek Lunsford turned pro, right? We've watched them come up in the game, so we know their bodies, we know their careers, we know them surface wise. There is no personal attacks. We don't have an agenda to take away someone's shine just because we say they're not ready for prime time.
Well, here, you want some good advices out there, new crew, new jacks, okay? Stop bitching. Stop whining every time somebody gives an opinion on something, for God's sakes, and it doesn't exactly match up with what you think, okay? We have an opinion. We're allowed to give it. You give it as much weight as you want. If you think it's complete garbage, then just say as much. Say, look, he's entitled to his opinion. That's okay. I'm going to do this. But stop whining, for God's sakes, because honestly, it doesn't look good. You're supposed to be professionals. Be a professional. Can you even imagine this in any other sport where they
Absolutely.
go on Monday and they talk about how the Yankees blew it, or this guy's in a hidden slump and he's hurting his team.
Let me make one comparison. Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl
Yeah,
champion,
yeah,
2 or 3 time MVP, one of the highest paid players. He goes out and throws 5 interceptions. They get beat by 3 touchdowns.
yeah,
You're gonna say that Aaron Rodgers sucks. He had a crappy game. What the
right.
hell was he doing? He's horrible. He wasn't paying attention. His timing was off. He better shape up, get his act right. The entire sports industry would probably echo that sentiment.
Of course they would.
Picking on Aaron Rodgers. You're not picking on the guy. His performance spoke for itself. We watched the crappy game. We watched a very bad performance. We watch the meltdown and we hold him responsible for the loss, even though it's a team sport, because his statistics show you that he was crappy that night. That happens in bodybuilding when you see a guy walk on stage with a fat protruding stomach,
Yeah.
with smooth, watery abs, with no cuts in his quads, with little effort on the stage. We call it what it is. Get your act together. You don't want us to talk bad about you. Show up prepared. Do the business
Well,
because you're being judged, you're being analyzed, and you're going to be critiqued. That's part of our industry. I
and
cannot give everybody a participation award just because you have the ability to put on posing trunks, some tanning oil, and some tanning sheen, and you're a professional athlete. You don't want the criticism. Do your homework.
I would suggest to the peoples out there, and again, we're talking about people in mass here, okay? There are exceptions to the rule. There's some athletes that take it on the chin, or actually, I've actually gotten the other. I've gotten where people have said, I heard what you had to say, and I value your opinion. You know what? I'm going to take that to heart. You're absolutely
Thank
right.
you.
I've gotten that type of response too.
Yeah.
But you guys need to learn to separate yourselves personally from your product, okay? Your product in this case is your physique, okay? If we were at a car show, Shawn, and you had a 1958 Edsel, okay? And I said, you know what, Shawn, I hate Edsels, man. It's the ugliest car ever made. I don't like it. It's just not me. I think it sucks. You know what I mean? Well, you're not going to take it personally. You're not going to say, well, geez, Bob, well, you're such a hater, man. I thought we were friends. Look, it's your
Right.
car I don't like, Shawn, okay? It's not you.
Yeah.
We're still buds, okay? But your car sucks, okay? It looks like it's sucking lemons. It's one of the worst production cars they ever made. That's what the bodybuilders need to do these days. Get a little thicker hide on you. Take the critique with a shaker of salt. You want to get pissed at somebody, go get pissed at some of these other podcasters out there who don't have not 1 second in this game. Most of them have never even stepped on the stage, let alone been to a show. I'm not so sure some of them even get out of their house, but they seem to have an opinion. Okay, again, I can't critique a show and have 20 guys in the top call out. Okay, you got 8 guys in the top 5. That's not being genuine. And when you saw some of this last week, actually, not to name names, but one of our own came out there and he gave some critique, and it was a little disingenuous because you got the guy is on the show with you. The guy is on there that you're supposed to be. So nobody wanted to speak anything negative. They were just blowing smoke up his ass the entire time, right? And telling him how great he is and stuff. It's like, that is not a good, listen, that's not a good look. Okay. You're not even a true analyst if that's what you got to do. So, again, where's the journalistic integrity here?
Yeah. I mean, it's the watering down effect. I think I'm not going to apologize. It is what it is. I got better because people gave me criticism.
Absolutely, bro. All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up, Shawn. I believe neither one of us are on the road next week, so we should be back with some more hot topics. Again, guys, get those comments in. Hit the subscribe button, like, all that kind of fun stuff there. We do appreciate your comments, good and bad. And yes, it is me and Shawn on there who are firing right back at you. So bring it. We ain't afraid of critique, okay? We actually practice what we preach. But to get those comments in, and like I said, guys, we will answer everyone to the best of our ability. And I'm sure you guys will have some ideas for next week's show. So for that, for Sugar Shawn Ray, I'm Bob Chick. Yo, we out of here.